Hey everyone, we've reached the final four of both the men's and women's NCAA tournaments, so we're excited to talk about what we saw in the regional weekends. We also have Major League Baseball to discuss. It's only 4 games in, but we've got some ABS reactions we can't wait to get to, and also a little bit of unfortunate news regarding Tiger Woods, and we'll cover that. And if we have some time, replacement refs. They're back. Did you miss them? We sure didn't. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Sports Ballers Podcast. My name is Eric. I'm joined by Cory and Evan. As always, gentlemen, how are we feeling today?
Can't complain. I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, doing pretty well myself.
Baseball's back.
Well, before the show, I was commenting, as was Evan to some extent, about some of the things on Cory's desk involving his cocoa butter and his honey, which apparently is a giveaway that Cory is married to a black woman. We love Rashonda, but something that reminds me that Cory...
We love Rashonda,
but something that reminds me that Cory is white.
The most powerful word in the English language.
Something that reminded me, just real quick, though, that Cory is white.
Pretty sure somebody in Game of Thrones told us that
Where are you going with
anything that
this?
comes before the butt doesn't matter.
Yes.
No, I'm saying this about
after
you,
the
not about your
crack in
wife.
your sentence.
But
All right,
anyway,
let's
Cory was very much snapping on the one in the intro, and I just find that utterly ridiculous.
Oh.
So,
I wasn't snapping on the downbeat.
no, it was not ideal. But anyway, but you went to double time, and that kind of fixed it. So anyway, all right, we've got some stuff to talk about now that I'm done scolding Cory for his snapping habits.
Rashonda butt.
I do love Rashonda. Don't love Cory snapping on the one, so we got to work on that. But we have baseball to discuss a little bit. But let's start with the NCAA tournament, since that is the biggest news, if you will, of what's going on. And Evan, have you watched any more basketball since last week? None.
No.
Because last week you watched, 20 minutes, you said?
Yeah.
Now it's still 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
So you didn't catch any of the
That is
Duke UConn
absolutely
game.
absurd. This was one of the best regional semifinals, regional finals that we've had in a long time, because we didn't have a lot of those double-digit seeds going on to this round and giving us bad basketball. This was we still got some kind of rough basketball in a couple of the games. I mean, Arizona scored 100 points in a Sweet 16 game. How often does that happen? And then Michigan almost did the same thing in the Elite Eight. But we got a lot of good basketball this weekend. Evan, you missed it all.
Well, I was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, and then I went to the
You
Orioles.
could play that and watch
Well, I didn't want to do that.
at the same time.
I didn't want to do that.
Okay.
And I went to the Orioles game on Sunday.
Well, we can excuse you for that. Going to a baseball game is kind of better than almost anything.
I had planned to go to Great Adventure on Saturday, but it was freezing cold up there. So.
Yeah, it was quite cold, and I was considering going up there this weekend too. But, Evan, you could have been home in time to watch UConn and Duke, even though you had gone to the Orioles game, because I watched the end of the Orioles game, and then hours later I watched UConn Duke, and it was quite something. UConn was down 19 points at one point in this game, 15 points at the half. It's the biggest blown lead by a number 1 seed in the history of the NCAA men's tournament. So, I think Evan agrees with me here. It doesn't break my heart to see Duke have this happen to them, especially with the way it happened. The crazy finish, the steal off the deflection when Duke was trying to run out the clock, and then just a 35-foot heave for the game winner, and then Dan Hurley doing whatever it was that Dan Hurley was doing, but somehow not getting teed up. It was just
You can't
quite a
contact
show.
an official and not expect some sort of penalty.
I would have expected
never-
a tee, yeah, but he didn't get one.
That was double T diner worthy. Zach Eflin
100%.
just got hurt and left the game tonight. So, yeah. It warms my heart whenever Duke loses in general, but I was so happy with how catastrophic it was. Right? Like, they had the ball with the lead, And
in
all
less
they had
than
to
10
do
seconds,
was bounce it on the floor
take
a couple
a foul.
times. Do anything but what they did.
Like there were any other number of things that you could do there. You didn't have to advance the ball. You could have just held it, taken the foul. You could have passed it to an open guy who was behind you. Could have done anything.
Could have thrown it out of bounds.
Sure, I guess. I mean, you still turn the ball over, and when he released the ball, clearly there was enough time on the clock for it to go 20 feet straight up in the air, come back down, be collected by a UConn player, passed by their star, and then a long three by a guy who was 0 for 4 from beyond the arc up to that point in the game.
And the shot was butter. Like
Oh,
it wasn't
yeah.
like he just chucked it and went off the backboard.
The
It was
snap on that
buttery
net.
smooth. It was unbelievable. Onions, as Bill
Yes,
Rafferty
onions.
appropriately said. Obviously, great call from everybody involved there. Ian Eagle and Bill Rafferty, and of course Grant Hill, watching his Duke Blue Devils get their hearts ripped out, and he stayed professional the whole time because that's what he does.
Have you seen the alternate angle that just shows you the commentators
Yeah,
during
I've seen that
call?
video. Yeah,
Excellent.
the referee looked like he wasn't with us anymore.
They looked so stunned. Stunned doesn't even do it justice. I don't know what a word is to express something greater than being stunned, but that was them in that moment, and that was fun to watch. My view on Duke has softened a lot over the years, particularly since being married to somebody who is a Duke alum.
That's no excuse.
We watch a lot of Duke. It's kind of hard to be as anti-Duke when they're on your TV as much as they are.
You should try.
That said, I wasn't as much upset that Duke lost that game, and certainly the fact that they did it in such ridiculous fashion, blowing a 19-point lead, all of that. I don't like that it was Hurley who did it, because he is... I used to think that I hated Krzyzewski. I used to think I hated Calipari. I hate Hurley more than I've hated any coach ever in
Even
any
Cliff
sport.
Kingsbury.
More than Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh, my
now,
goodness.
because here's the thing. With Cliff Kingsbury, it's not that I necessarily hated him as a person. I just think that he's a terrible coach, and I still think that he's a terrible coach.
Okay.
Hurley, I do not
he's
like
a
as a
bad guy.
person.
Okay.
I think that he is the most arrogant person to ever be a head coach in any major sport that I've watched. I'm sure that there are more arrogant people in, some obscure sports or like soccer that I don't pay attention to the coaches, but he is so arrogant. He is so full of himself. Just the way that he carries himself in interviews. He's so condescending. I don't like him.
Well, yeah, he's the villain of college basketball right now. I mean, he's an excellent coach, bar
It's
none.
just interesting because I never hear anybody talking about that.
Well, why would they? He's too busy doing goofy stuff like he was doing during the game. His press conferences are always
How do you get away
wild.
with headbutting a referee? I still don't even know why he headbutted that referee. I'm assuming he made some call that he didn't like early in the game that I missed. But
Was the
why are
headbutting
you-
the referee still a time on the clock?
Yeah, it was right after the shot went
Yeah.
in. There was 0.4 seconds left.
Oh, that's got to be a
Yeah.
technical foul.
That's what I'm saying.
Like that's a
I don't
a
understand
double
how
tech
it wasn't.
at the shower.
Like, Duke should have had free throws at that point. And the only thing that would have been more glorious than Duke blowing that lead in such ridiculous fashion would have been for him to then give it right back to them when they hit their free throws. If they hit their free throws, because they were struggling at the line.
The refs have, we talked about this 4 years ago during the NBA Finals, the refs have the discretion to use technical fouls. The main purpose is to maintain order of the basketball game. And if they feel that a technical foul in a situation is too big of a penalty in a situation and not worth the squeeze, they can say, we're not going to do it. And
But that is behavior that you cannot allow to persist.
What if
You cannot allow somebody to get away with behaving that way. Especially not a head coach.
you assaulted somebody? That
let's not be dramatic, okay?
But it is.
yeah.
by the definition of the word,
Earl Weaver never put his
I'm not
forehead
sitting
on
here
anybody.
saying, "Oh, he like murdered the guy."
The calling it assault is dramatic. Let's be serious for a second.
Earl Weaver didn't put his forehead in any umpire's stomach.
Although that would have been quite awkward if he had. But
That was every bit as unbecoming as Juwan Howard's face mush.
oh no, it wasn't. Come on.
It is every bit as
No,
unbecoming.
it's not.
I don't know
Come
about every
on.
bit,
That's-
but I was about to mention
that's-
Juwan Howard too.
No, come on. That's just the ref decided not to give him a technical because the ref didn't want to involve himself in the outcome of the game, and I think that's perfectly fine. There is no, oh my God, college basketball is ruined because Danny Hurley acted like a prick for the 10 millionth time, so we didn't ruin his team's game as a result of it. It's fine. It is fine. Okay?
I don't like the argument of not calling a foul because we don't want to put our thumb on the scale. By not calling the foul, you are putting your thumb on the scale.
But it's a technical foul, which
Not
again,
calling a penalty is just as much of a decision, is just as decisive in the outcome of a game as calling the penalty.
this is not a game call where there are specific rules on how this is adjudicated. The ref has full discretion to make this call. He made the call. Respect the call. I don't understand why it was like, oh, we had to have a technical foul here. The dude apparently talked to Seth Greenbean or whatever and said it didn't even register with him. Like, he just didn't even remember the play because he didn't care. If he doesn't care, I'm not going to care. Like, that's the bottom line. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my God, you got to tee him up there. No, he doesn't. It's up to him. If he teed him up there, I would have said,
to
okay.
me, it sounds like a ref who had some money on UConn.
Well, he should have called more fouls on Duke then because he almost lost his money. Like, come on. Like, it's fine. It's fine, okay? Like, come on. Like, it's perfectly fine. It's not a big deal that the ref didn't just say, hey, let's give Duke the game. I mean, it's certainly...
Duke would still have to go and make the free throws.
They get to pick whoever they want to go up there, though. I mean, I don't have a problem with this. I really don't.
Eric, you convinced me, but I mean, I think a technical foul would have been appropriate had it been called.
I agree. If the ref had done it, I would have said, hell yeah. They completely
You
deserve it.
can't do that.
But if the fact that he decided not to, I'm not like upset about it. And again, it's not just because I hate Duke. I do hate Duke, but I'm not mad at the ref for saying, you know what, I'm gonna let this slide. It's okay.
I have a very different view on what ultimately becomes rewarding poor behavior.
I mean, okay, that's fine. There's a reason why the ref isn't involved in the Final Four. Apparently, he's not on staff, even though he's done 7 Final Fours, including last year. He's not going to be involved in any of the games. So, regardless, UConn wins, Duke loses, and I should mention this. This is the second year in a row that Jon Scheyer's Duke Blue Devils have absolutely gagged up a big NCAA tournament game.
Oh no,
I'm just saying,
that's too bad.
you know, maybe Jon Scheyer's got warning track power. Maybe he's not actually that good.
Was Jon Scheyer the coach when Duke lost in like the Final Four to North Carolina?
No, that was Mike Krzyzewski's last year,
Okay.
which was also embarrassing. But Mike Krzyzewski obviously has a lengthy track record that makes that a little bit more
Yeah, because
acceptable.
Scheyer and Hubert Davis started the same year, didn't they?
Now,
Or
Hubert Davis
was a year later.
Hubert Davis was coaching North Carolina when Duke lost to North Carolina in that Final Four.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So that makes it kind of interesting to me.
This
that
is
they
Scheyer's
fired
third
him this
year.
year.
Well, because he's been terrible. Hubert Davis sucks. He's terrible. He's an awful coach. They lost in the first round
I
this
figure
year.
getting to the Final Four would give you a little bit longer leash, though.
Not in North Carolina. You can't be bad for 3 straight years after one Final Four appearance where you kind of got lucky to be there. This is North Carolina. This is blue blood territory, man. You got to win.
I don't know. I agree with you on Scheyer, though. I don't think that he is a difference maker as a coach. I don't think that he's going to make his teams worse than the personnel they have, but I also don't know that he can lift them to be better than what they are.
And, of course, he's at Duke, so they're going to have the most talent in the country basically every year. So the teams are always going to be really, really good. But is he the guy that can get them to over the hump and get them through March and win a championship? That remains to be seen.
I don't think that he is going to prevent them from winning a national title. If they have the talent and their players all play consistently through a tournament, they'll win a national title with with him or without him. I don't think that he's a difference maker for them.
Well, if you think North Carolina's standards are high when they fired Hubert Davis, Duke's standards are the highest in the country. So he's gonna have to get better because again, an Elite Eight, most schools happy to have that, but 2 straight blown leads when they had the number 1 overall seeded team, it's a tough look.
Yeah,
That's too bad.
Yes, it's quite a shame.
They can go cry in their ugly gray buildings.
Evan, you made sure to mention when the Orioles didn't score or got
Yes.
scored on, but your boy Pete Alonso hit a home run.
Well, you were impassioned and talking about the technical foul and stuff. Pete Alonso hit a home run. His first as an Oriole.
So that makes the score 1-1 for the Orioles who are playing the Rangers. But let's get into a little baseball now because we've had a weekend and change to observe some of the 2026 season. And I think the most interesting thing that's happened so far, I think we all agree with this, is the implementation of the ABS strike system where teams are allowed to challenge balls and strikes. Cory, your Yankees got quite involved in it yesterday.
Yes,
Tell us about that.
Is Aaron Boone arguing balls and strikes again?
he wasn't arguing balls and strikes. He was telling an umpire to tighten
shake
it up
up, yeah.
after we won
Tighten it up.
4 ABS challenges in a row in the matter of an inning. We won 5 in that one inning.
Oh, my God.
Like
Yeah, you went 5 for 5 for the
as
game.
hitters. And here's the thing that's crazy about that. Going 5 for 5 is pretty significant because up through Sunday, hitters challenging balls and strikes were succeeding at like a 46% rate. They were less than 50%. Catchers are crushing it. They're at like 60-something%. Pitchers are only 5 challenges have been initiated by pitchers up through the weekend. They won 2 of the 5 because most coaches are telling them, you obviously think everything is a strike. You should not be challenging. The catcher actually has a better view than you anyway. Like you're falling to the side, you're moving as you're delivering, whatever. So let the catcher handle the challenge. If your catcher thinks it's a strike, he'll tap his head. Hitters, you're looking at it from the side. You don't have the perfect viewing angle on the strike zone. So it makes sense that they're a little bit under 50%. But for the Yankees to go 5 for 5 in an inning is absolutely ridiculous that you have an umpire missing that badly. And we didn't even have CB Buckner behind the plate for
The Red
that
Sox.
game. The Red Sox against who were they playing?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. That was ludicrous.
I mean, what do you expect from CB Buckner behind the plate? But so I wanted to ask you this: 5 for 5, obviously, pretty impressive or unimpressive from the plate umpire. But how close were the calls being correct?
I mean, I think 2 of them were pretty significantly off. The other 3 were pretty close.
Okay.
One of them was within a tenth of an inch.
That's pretty close.
The one that Stanton called, it had the less than 0.1 inches on it. So it was very close.
It was off by like a hair.
Yeah. You can't really be that mad at an umpire for missing that.
No.
Well,
But-
Aaron Boone was yelling at him after that one.
Well, but this is the thing, though.
But it was because we had
Tighten it up.
already won 3 others, and so it doesn't matter to him that one was like the closest of the 4 up to that point. You're still calling a bunch of balls strikes against my guys.
Yeah, and Boone's point was that umpires have tendencies across the board. Like certain umps will call a lower strike, some will call a higher strike, some might give you a little off the plate either way, depending on just how they do it. Boone's point was you keep missing these calls because you have a tendency. Adjust.
Yeah,
Figure it out.
yeah.
Like you're clearly not seeing this the way the strike
should
zone
be
actually is. So
Right.
you need to make an adjustment with how you are operating behind the plate. And I think that's one of the more interesting little plot lines with the umpires here is how do they sort of course correct because, I mean, again, we get mad at them all the time for making bad calls, but in their mind, they're making good calls. They're like, these are strikes. What are you all talking about? And it's like, well, you're actually missing on pitches that are low or away or whatever.
their
And
mind,
now
they're
it's
making good
being
calls.
put out on full display what's happening. And umpires don't want to be the guy that gets the call wrong. Okay,
No.
they want to get these calls right, so they have to kind of fix it. And that's something that I've been kind of impressed a little bit with the umpires here so far is, again, very early. But they've been pretty humble about this whole situation because the umpires are not known for that.
No, they're
No.
not.
Like, this is not exactly something I would expect umpires to be like, you know what? Yeah, let's give way to the robots here, and somebody challenges it. They're pretty amenable to things like that. We'll talk about what happened in the Orioles-Twins game.
Bob Davidson would have a meltdown out there.
Yeah. So, but it's been an interesting dynamic. The players basically get to show up the umps legally now.
Yeah,
like it's.
As long as you're not getting up in the umpire's face and being a dick about it. Yeah. Like you just tap your helmet and be like, "See, told you."
Yeah, and that's the amendment that makes them not have to get up in your face, right?
Right.
And so that's something that they've probably wanted for a while, and it's good for them.
Well, it seems like this is pretty universally liked because the option was given to all parties to vote between the ball strike challenge system, the ABS system, and full robo umpiring, where an umpire just gets the ball strike call in their ear after each pitch. And every entity, umpires, managers, players, everybody involved agreed almost unanimously that they preferred the ABS challenge system, which, I'm fine with. If that's what everybody who's involved wants, then I'm fine with it. Personally, I'd rather just have every call be right. But if that's what they want, if they feel like it moves the game a little bit quicker to do it that way rather than the umpire waiting for the signal and then giving, fine. I understand that. I am starting to wonder if 2 challenges might be too few. If maybe you need to give teams 3 or 4, or like space them out over the course of the game. Like, you get 2 to start the game, but then like after the 4th inning, you get another one. After the 7th, you get another one. Something to that extent, just to make sure that you're not penalized because if you're gonna have games like CB Buckner's, where I think the Red Sox challenged 5 calls and got them right, but like there were 15 other calls that they could have challenged that they didn't.
John Boy video said.
Yeah,
there's 15
I
more balls.
I thought that's where I might have gotten it from. I couldn't remember for sure, but there are some calls that you're not challenging because you don't want to lose that first one, and then you only have one for the rest of the game. So you're really picking and choosing. Whereas if you had 3, maybe you feel a little more comfortable, or if you know that you're going to get more later in the game, you'd be more comfortable making that challenge, because ultimately we do want the calls to be right. We appreciate the speed that the ABS system gives us for the umpire just giving us the immediate call, but you want to get it right. And if more challenges allows us to get it right more, I understand there should be some punitive measure. You can't just challenge every call that you don't like. I get that. But I think that there has to be some sort of a middle ground here, because some of the umpires are doing a really good job with this. I think pretty much all of them are doing a good job in their reaction to getting a call wrong. But there are some that just, they're not making the adjustments. They're still not calling a very good game. And now we're at a point where like the gap between those could actually start to make differences in the overall outcomes of the season in terms of final records and playoff placement.
I mean, the CB Buckner especially should be used to, how to handle himself after making a bad call, because that happens a lot. But like,
I mean, he's also not used to like not being able to just throw somebody out for arguing balls and strikes.
I'm glad that there's finally some accountability for these umpires, because like some of the calls that were challenged I've seen where the pitch was all over the zone and called a ball, or way out,
or like 2.5 inches outside.
It's a whole ball and a half off the plate. Strike! Like, come on, ump. Or are we watching the same game?
The other interesting aspect to this is, initially my thought when we found out we were going to have ABS in the regular season was, okay, so maybe framing isn't going to really be a thing with catchers anymore. But if anything, it might be even more so, because catchers want to get that call so that the other team wastes challenges potentially. And so you might almost do a reverse frame sometimes, where you take a good pitch and you make it look too low, or like you like there's a lot more different nuances to the way that you can to the art of framing with the ABS system to try and kind of game it a little bit, which I think is interesting.
I mean, if you're a batter, though, and you get fooled by a catcher doing a poor job of sticking a pitch, then you weren't paying attention to the pitch. Like, your judgment of whether or not it's a strike is based off of where it crosses the
Sure,
plate.
but if you think it's close and you're like, I don't know if I should, but like you kind of dip down, you see the catcher like holding it way below the zone, you'd be like, oh yeah, definitely give me that one.
I can't remember a single time that I ever was looking at the catcher's mitt when I was at the plate.
But you also didn't have a reason to look at the catcher's mitt because you didn't have to think about whether to challenge a ball or strike call.
I guess. I don't know. I don't think that's a smart idea.
I think
the umpires are more likely to
galaxy
screw
brain.
you. Like, if you don't stick it, the umpire's going to blow the call, and then you have to challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So it comes with its own drawbacks.
Yeah.
The
True,
obvious
good.
strikes that were missed were like on like stolen base attempts and stuff. Like if there's
when the
some
catcher
sort of
comes out of
commotion
crouch, yeah.
behind the plate for whatever reason.
But that's also an interesting part of this is that, and that's one of the kinks that sort of has to be worked out with Major League Baseball is on a stolen base attempt, if it's a full, or let's say it's a full count, like there's 1 out, full count, and the pitch is thrown for ball 4, the runner on first is awarded second base, but if it's challenged and it's called strike 3, you've now disrupted the game with an erroneous call. Like, how do we handle those situations?
Well, in that situation, you just take the runner from second, you put him back on first.
And
Like
that's
that,
what
like
you
that
have
one's
to do,
easy.
yeah.
I suppose there could be some
Well, what
more
if I got a big
complicated
jump?
ones, right?
What if I had that base stolen clean and you blew the call and now I got to go back to first?
Well, then you could
Okay,
yell at
I
the
see what
umpire.
you're saying.
Like,
I
I'm
see what
just-
you're saying.
And again, I realize that it comes with the territory of having challenges and stopping the game, and so I'm okay with the idea of them having to go back to first. But that is a
Yeah, I mean,
but
at
there are
that
just
point, I would
certain-
just say, okay,
yeah.
well, you have another new count with this new batter where if you can try and steal again. You got such a good jump, then just try and do it again.
Sure, and I realize again these situations are not common.
No,
where this is
but they
gonna
will
actually
come up,
influence,
and
yeah.
eventually they'll come up in in an important moment. In the 9th inning of a 1-run game, and you're trying to get into scoring position, or we're in the playoffs and it's game 7 of the ALCS. Like eventually you are
Can't
going
relate to
to
that.
No, I can't.
eventually you are going to have one of those situations that comes up in a critical moment, and I think the important thing is for all of us as viewers, as fans, is to be prepared for that and to not overreact to it in that moment. Not react to it in a different way than we do, in the first inning of a 0-0 ball game.
Well, speaking of overreaction, we had our first ABS-related crash out from a manager.
Yes.
And that featured our Baltimore Orioles against the Twins on Sunday. Evan, you were at the game.
I was at the game.
I was watching on television. I think we both got great perspectives here because obviously our guys calling the game did a wonderful job breaking it all down and being very funny about it. But you got to be there, so what was that like?
It was chaotic. It was very strange just trying to figure out what happened because everybody's just kind of standing and looking, and there was a bit of a delay from when the pitch was thrown and was called ball 4. There was a little bit of more time in there between the call of the pitch and the announcement that it had been challenged. And so that's what the Twins manager was really arguing about. But, it was a ball that the call was overturned and it was changed to a strike. And, the Twins manager comes bolting out of the dugout and he's all upset and yelling. And, you can read his lips pretty clearly that it had taken too much time. But what really happened in that situation and what I couldn't see from where I was sitting was that, usually the catcher will challenge the pitch, but
The pitcher challenged.
the
in this
pitcher
case.
challenged it.
And he didn't see that. The catcher also tapped his helmet, but much later.
Yeah.
But the pitcher had already challenged and had done so in a timely manner.
Yes. And Adley was catching at this point, and when he took the ball from his mitt to his glove, he dropped it and it rolled away. Like it had to be something silly that happened. So he drops the ball and it rolls away. So that's why he's preoccupied. So then that whole time, Ryan Hurley, the pitcher, is tapping his hat. And Laz Diaz, who was the second base ump.
The crew chief.
Yeah, the crew chief. He, as the second base ump, you can see everything that's going on at home plate pretty clearly. And he sorted it all out.
Laz Diaz sorted
right.
it
I
all
was
out.
just, yeah,
Of all people.
like
Of all people.
the only guy, like the guy who's thankful that CB Buckner exists, basically.
He's disappointed that Angel Hernandez doesn't as an umpire anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Joe West, Cowboy Joe.
Yeah. So it was a little difficult to kind of figure out what was going on. I will say, though, when a pitch got challenged and they did a little animation on the screen, it is thrilling.
Yes, it's
Do you guys
electric.
have something different at Orioles Park? Or you just enjoy like the T-Mobile?
It's the same.
It's the
Okay.
T-Mobile
It's the
thing.
same,
Yeah, okay.
But
yeah, it is fun though.
it's oh my goodness. And
I got disappointed during one of the challenges that the Yankees made last night against Seattle. They didn't show it on the broadcast. I was like, "What is this? I want to see.
Yeah, you
I
wanna
want to
see
see the animation. I want to see how much you
T-Mobile
missed by."
paid money for that.
And so the thing is, if for those of us out there who watch tennis, this is very similar to their Hawkeye
Oh,
challenge
yeah,
system.
yeah.
And that has always been theatrical.
Mm-hmm.
With, the fans start clapping as the little animated ball approaches the line, and whether it's in or out.
That's why I think that even though you can see it on a clay court, they should still have it for.
And they've moved to that at the French Open.
Have they?
Because for a long time
Is
they
that
didn't want to
starting
do it.
this year? Or did it already start?
I don't know if they've implemented it yet, but they're working to get
Okay.
Roland Garros equipped
Roland
with
Garros.
the necessary technology.
Because
to
like
be able to do it.
that's fun as a fan.
Yeah, it's great, and it's better than having the chair umpire waddle out there and point to a spot where the ball hit.
Wobble.
It's like
Especially because like
100 balls gonna hit that
Williams,
spot.
like,
dude.
like, are you
Shove it
sure
down
that
your
this
throat.
is the one that just hit?
Yeah, it's a little shaky, but yeah, there's a theater behind it, and again, watching the game at home, it was clear that the plate umpire, why there was a delay, was because he's looking for the catcher to challenge. Catcher Adley did not challenge, but Hurley challenged immediately. It
Yes.
was not, and so he didn't see Hurley challenge until he was done, kind of looking over Adley's shoulder, and that's why there was a
looking
delay.
for the ball. It's
I do think that they need to look at the mechanic of the challenge and like on a couple fronts. One, does it really like how are we defining immediately? Because there was one where like the batter flipped his bat and then tapped his head, and the whole move took a second and a half, and that was considered too late or like too many movements before the challenge.
it's got to be within
That's
a couple
ridiculous.
seconds.
Like that's ridiculous to me. That you should be able to challenge at that point. If you've left the batter's box and it's not like heading down the first base line because you think you just drew a walk, then sure, you can't tap your helmet anymore.
Well, if you just drew a walk, you're not going to challenge.
Yeah, but if you thought
No,
it was
if
ball
you
four
thought
and
it was ball
you started
four, but you were like
making a
rung
move,
up or they called a strike, and you start to move down the first baseline because you thought that it should have been ball four.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. Is like at that point, sure, you could have left the batter's box and still challenge. Other than that, if you like step out of the box and then like that, to me should be kind of the way to determine too much time.
And there's a clear stance from Major League Baseball on this. The main delineator is you cannot have time to look into your own dugout. They do not want the players checking in with coaching staff, managers, and things like that.
So maybe it's you're looking like the umpire's looking at the batter's face, and like as long as they don't look toward the dugout.
And that's why it's kind of there's an emphasis on the first thing you do after the call is
Right.
made,
Yeah.
so that you're not looking around or whatever. The guy that flipped his bat in his hand, again, I could kind of have gone either way on that, but I was like, I saw what he did. I got that he thought it was ball four, but he did kind of hold his bat there and stare for a bit before he tapped his helmet. And there were contrasting situations where a player tossed his bat aside, heard strike three or strike whatever called, and he just immediately started tapping his head. And I think that's just an awareness that the players have to have, because it's really not that hard to get the challenge in, regardless of what the call is.
Here would be my question on before I move on to the other mechanic that I think they need to look at. But looking into your dugout, how quickly are people in the dugout getting any sort of indicator as to whether something was a strike or a ball? Because if you're looking to the dugout, if you're looking to Aaron Boone, who's watching the pitch from the side, trying to say like no, those guys don't know what the heck they're talking about when they try to say that the umpire got it wrong.
Even so, the umpires don't want outside influences here. They want the batter or the catcher or the pitcher to make the call, and that's it. And I think that's fine.
fair.
I think
That's fine. I feel like you could almost make the argument, if you want to waste your challenge by trusting somebody who doesn't have a good view of it,
who can't tell if it's
then,
inside or outside.
Be my guest, waste your challenge. But in any case, the other part of the mechanic that I think, I don't know how much it's really slowing the game down because I don't know how quickly they're able to get the animation up on the screen anyway. Maybe it takes a beat anyway, but for the umpire every time to turn around and announce to the crowd the way that NFL referees, turn on their mic and announce the penalty to the crowd, I feel like is a little bit excessive. I feel like the head tap is enough to be like, okay, they're challenging, let's watch it up on the screen.
In the stadium, it is nice to hear somebody say something. Because, if there's a delay in the game and everybody's just standing around.
You could just put it over the PA system and be like,
well, that's what they did.
Challenge. Well, but you don't need the umpire to turn around and address. You could just have a button that says the call has been challenged, and you look up at the scrreen.
I don't.
Or you can just have the ump say it.
I don't see that as being.
It just feels like the whole turning around, taking your mask off, it feels like a little bit more time than is needed.
Well,
it takes a second.
For the most part, there's 10 is a lot of challenges in a game. So if it takes a couple extra seconds, it adds maybe 30 seconds to the gameplay. I don't think it's
That's
really.
Fair. We've saved enough over the last few years. We can add a little bit.
Exactly. The pitch clock has helped. And again, this is something that we actually kind of think is fun, right? There's
the crowd in Cincinnati got so excited whenever it was like two pitchers in the same at bat to Eugenio Suarez.
Yeah, both
they were back-to-back pitches.
And there were strike 3 calls that he stayed up there because he got him overturned.
And I think it was the second pitch of those two that was a ball and a half off the plate. The first one was low
tight,
by a fraction of an inch.
But
Jose Caballero had I don't remember if it was back-to-back or 2 of 3 pitches that he challenged yesterday, but he had 2 in 1 at bat where he challenged strike calls that got overturned, and he wound up drawing a walk in that AB.
So Kevin Brown, upon the Twins manager getting ejected from the game, yells out, "He's arguing with the robots. You can't defeat the robots."
No, you can't.
He was having a great time with it, as Kevin Brown would always do. I see the Orioles have tied the game.
Yes,
excellent.
But he was great. Jim Palmer was great as the oldest dude probably in the stadium and calling the game. Immediately identified the fact that Hurley tapped his hat when other people were looking at literally everybody else except for the pitcher. And then it was funny because Jim Palmer said that, Adley dropped the ball a little bit, meaning figuratively, because he didn't challenge. And then Ben McDonald points out he literally dropped the ball in the midst of this, sort of kerfuffle going on with the challenge. And just the whole thing was just I'm so glad our guys got to be on hand for this. And again, it was a huge call because it was runner on first, 1 out. Orioles are up 2 runs. So ball 4 is 2 on, 1 out, tying runs on base.
Right.
Strike 3 is we're 1 out away from a win. And that's what happened. He got the call. He nipped the outside corner, and he got the call on it. And then Gunnar made an error to make things really interesting, and then he got out of the jam after that. So it's been quite an experience with the ABS. I can't wait to see more of it. I think it adds an element of fun that baseball sometimes lacks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball, I've been really enjoying it the last few years, especially ever since they got the pitch clock involved. It's made the game a little bit quicker, much more fun to watch. ABS has taken my enjoyment to a new height.
I mean, Rob Manfred doesn't seem to like baseball very much, but he's doing some good things.
Yes.
He's getting some stuff right.
Sometimes maybe you need a guy who hates baseball.
Maybe he likes
to point
baseball,
out the
and he just
baseball.
doesn't like the trophy.
It's a piece of metal.
It's just a piece of metal.
It's a terrible trophy.
It really is. The commissioner trophy sucks.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of little flags. It's
flags. I think they should change it. It should be like a sort of a cup trophy with like a baseball looking thing on top of it. I don't know. But what they have, they need to fix that.
I mean, George Costanza had every right to drive around the parking lot dragging the commissioner's trophy behind his car in Seinfeld. That was appropriate because that trophy stinks. I think it's the worst trophy certainly among the big 4 North American sports.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup's better. The Larry O'Brien Trophy's better.
Yeah,
the
obviously Lombardi Trophy is
yeah.
better.
Like, come on. All right, so we've got 20 minutes left before we got to get out of here. So let's talk a little bit about some news regarding a certain golf legend. You may have heard of him. His name is Eldrick Tiger Woods. He unfortunately was in a serious car accident over the weekend and was arrested under suspicion of DUI. This is, I believe, the second time that this has happened with Tiger. And it is also the second time, not that this exonerates him, obviously, but notably, he did not have alcohol in his system. This was related to prescription pills. And that's where I think this is, it's a little bit more tragic just because it's clear to me that Tiger has an issue with an addiction to these pills. And it's related to the fact that he's put his body through hell as a golfer. He's had a million back surgeries, which, again, if you talk to anybody that deals with back pain, it's hell on earth. It's like you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. And, it sucks that this keeps happening. Obviously, Tiger should not be driving under these circumstances, and he knows that. And he's endangering lives when he's driving to the point where he's dumping his car and rolling it over. People could get seriously hurt or killed on the road when that's going on. But there is a level of concern for his well-being as well, not just in terms of motor vehicle safety, but in terms of his mental health and how he's able to sort of get over this pretty bad situation that he's in.
Once it was determined there was no alcohol in his system, like, you can't be like, oh, well, there's nothing here. He just screwed up. I'm like, well, something else is going on because a pattern has been established, right? Like, he has a problem with these the pain pills, and then he also said, oh, I was looking at my phone and changing the radio. I'm like, how are you doing both of those at the same time? Which hand was on the steering wheel exactly in that situation? And then, Tiger Woods, like, if you have a problem with these pain pills or with alcohol or with anything, and you're a billionaire, get somebody else to drive you. That's the easy one, right? Call your guy and, hey, come get me to go wherever.
Yeah, this is tough because, you want to say the same thing that you do with every one of these situations, which is exactly what Evan just said. Get somebody to drive you. You have $1 bajillion. You are you're the greatest golfer who has ever lived. And while you're not the richest of them anymore because of Live Golf paying out $1 billion to guys like Mickelson, but like, you've made a lot of money. You have the money to have a driver. And I understand the concerns over privacy and like somebody like feeling like somebody's always watching over you, and like I get that, but like
You can't be
that
doing this,
but that comes with the territory of being successful and famous whether it's as an athlete, as an A-list or even B-list actor, as a Grammy award-winning singer, whatever it is that you do that gets you a lot of publicity, that comes with the territory. People are going to know where you are, what you're doing. May as well have somebody who can keep you safe and who can keep you from being a danger to other people. Because that's what Tiger was in this situation. He was a danger to other people by being on the road in a state where he was not intoxicated with alcohol, but he was under the influence. He was not in a state of mind to be operating a motor vehicle. And then on top of that, I'm sure that he initially told officers this as, try and deflect from any suspicion that he was under the influence of something, but you don't lie and say that you were looking at your cell phone and changing the radio station at the time of a crash if that didn't also happen. So not only is he under the influence of drugs, but he was also very likely driving distracted on top of that. And that's where it gets really hard for me to feel for Tiger. I agree with everything that you said, Eric. Is like, this is a very tragic story. Obviously, him being on these pills and being addicted to them is directly related to all of these injuries that he has suffered as a direct result of being such a great golfer. Because one of the things that made him so great was the unbridled power with which he swung a golf club. And that did a lot of damage to his back over the years. And because of that, he's had to have all these surgeries. He's had to take all these pain medications. And the more that happens, the higher the risk is of you becoming addicted to it, especially when you're dealing with a guy who clearly has an addictive personality. He said that he was addicted to sex. He's been addicted to partying and drugs and different things at different times of his life. So, like, that's part of his personality. And when that's a part of your personality, you have to take steps to address it in some way. And if that doesn't involve going to rehab, which he says that he's taking a step away from golf to go to rehab, he's not golfing anyway at this point in his career. But
well, he's certainly not winning. He might golf.
Yeah,
he's not
but
win.
He's going to rehab now. Awesome. Should have been doing that before. But if you're not going to do that, then you need to take other steps, such as making sure that you are not the person behind the wheel at any time. That can't happen. And that is where my sympathy for Tiger hits its limit.
There's a lot of poor decision making going on.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yep. No doubt about that. And again, I in no way am suggesting that what Tiger did was okay. Like, let me be clear.
Not at all.
No.
It is not acceptable. We all understand. All of us,
It's sad. I mean, the
all
whole
of us,
situation is definitely sad.
and all of us drink from time to time, and sometimes
Sure.
to excess, and we still bear the responsibility for our actions, even in that state of mind, even if you have the unfortunate affliction of having an addiction. You still have to take responsibility for your actions. But again, this is an issue of, this isn't just another DUI. This is, you need help, dude. Like, beyond whether, even if he gets a driver or whatever, he doesn't get behind the wheel impaired ever again, he's going to kill himself at that point because of what he's doing to himself as a result of being addicted to these pills. And it's something you want to see somebody recover from, because it sucks. Like, it's just a bad situation all around. And, the first step is taking responsibility for it. The next step is accepting that, you're not going to be able to do this by yourself. So hopefully Tiger gets the help he needs, and obviously he's held accountable for what he did, because it was pretty awful. But, yeah, that's all I have on that. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Nope.
All right, well, the last thing we're going to talk about today, and we do have just a little bit of time for everybody's favorite thing in the world, replacement refs, which are apparently potentially making a comeback to the NFL on a television near you or in person in 2026. How exciting!
You thought the regular refs were bad. Wait till you see the people who don't actually do this for a living. Just, put on the Foot Locker outfit and try to call an NFL game.
It was so noticeable
It was-
immediately
Yeah.
in 2012.
It was-
Abundantly obvious.
Was it the first week or the second week where we had the Monday night game between the Broncos and the Falcons? That
was
like
week 2.
it took like 2 to 2.5 hours to get to halftime of that
the
game.
game didn't end until almost midnight, and they kicked at 8:15. It was just
It
took so
absurd.
long
It
to
was-
get that football game.
That
played.
was the worst game that I had ever watched, purely because of the replacement refs. Until the following week,
Until
when
the next
were
Monday
we
night.
at Looney's together for that game for the Fail Mary?
I think we were at Looney's for the Broncos for the previous game, for the Broncos Falcons.
I was definitely watching that in my dorm room.
Okay.
I remember that
All right,
for
well,
sure.
I don't remember. All I know
Sure,
is
studying.
I was watching all of it.
I wasn't studying. I was watching football.
Studying.
But
on
I remember
Monday
where I
Night
was for that
Football.
game. No, I don't remember for sure if we were, because I know that we were at Looney's for the playoff Seahawks Packers game. I don't remember if we were there for the Fail
Yeah.
Mary one, but
Yeah,
that
doesn't
was the touchdown interception, the
Fail Mary.
non-push off that should have been called pass interference on Golden Tate, who
And
later
here's your
became my
boy.
Your
boy,
boy,
who
yeah.
later became my boy.
He wasn't your
was
boy
not
then.
my
You
boy at the
hated
time.
Golden
I hated
Tate.
Golden Tate.
And then he became your boy.
Imagine that. But yeah, so now it looks like we may be getting replacement refs again because the NFL and the Referees Association ended their collective bargaining talks last week. The contract for the referees expires at the end of May, I think. And so the NFL has begun looking at college officials, and I think primarily looking at I don't think they're looking at the Power 5 officials. I think they're looking at lower level college officials.
Wonderful.
To come in and to
this is what's
go
called
through
a terrible
all
idea.
and to go through all the training. The one thing that gives me a little bit of hope that if this actually comes to pass and we have replacement refs, it may not be as bad as the first go round is they're getting a much earlier start on preparing for it. So they'll actually be able to train some of these refs ahead of time and have them go through the training camp and everything. Because to my recollection, that did not happen with the replacement refs back in 2012. The other thing that gives me some hope is that they are discussing passing a rule that would support these replacement refs from New York on some calls, where if a clear and obvious foul is seen from the New York studios that is not called by the replacement refs, they can call it in. The league. Because
I thought it was referees who operated that thing.
It's the same people who make the decisions right now when you make a challenge. Like when a coach challenges a call, the referee in the stadium is not making the decision anymore. That hasn't been the case since the last collective bargaining agreement, if not before then.
But
it goes to New York.
So I thought the people in New York were refs too. Aren't they on strike?
That's a fair question. I actually don't know the answer to that. That's a good question. I need to look into.
At least when baseball put in their challenges, that's going on 10 or 15 years ago now. It was just
I was
umpires
under
in
the
New York.
impression that the people in New York are actually NFL employees, and so maybe they are officials in that sense, but they are not part of the Referees Association. But I could be completely off base on that. In which case, that's an important question that would need to be discussed, because if it's replacement refs who are seeing it, granted, they still have the benefit of seeing the replay and quickly calling in, right? Seeing something that the referees in stadium didn't see. But to your point, that would not necessarily be ideal.
I just don't see how the solution to we have inadequate refs is we have to provide low-flying cover from New York to make the calls right. Just get the good refs back. Yeah. I have been very, very calmly moving towards accepting Roger Goodell as the commissioner of the NFL. He had a bad stretch where he made a lot of mistakes, but he's done well recently. I will give him that. Post-COVID especially, I think he's knocked it out of the park.
20 years.
Yeah.
But he was the commissioner last time we had replacement refs. This was his blunder on his watch last time. You cannot do this again. You can't make the same mistake twice. That's insane.
One thing that has me not reacting quite as strongly to this is prior to the 2012 replacement refs, the actual refs were doing a bang-up job. They were doing a great job officiating games. The referees over the past 5 years have been trash. The real refs have sucked.
So we're going to get worse refs now.
The refs right now are as bad as the 2012 replacement refs.
Okay, we know that's not true.
That isn't true.
Football games don't take 3 hours and 45 minutes because they can't spot the ball right. Come on.
There was a 15-yard penalty in some game in the first 3 weeks of 2012 where they gave the team that earned the penalty. They gave them 27 yards instead of 15 because they put the ball was supposed to advance to the 44-yard line, but they picked the wrong 44
All right,
yard
so
line.
the current refs are better at math and hash marks.
Well, it's a game where they keep score and they measure on the
The
field.
numbers
so
are on the
math
But as
field.
far as the
matters.
actual calls, what is a foul and what isn't, and all, like, they're as bad.
They've been bad. I agree, but the fact is
They've
they've
been
been
bad.
bad.
I don't wanna make 'em
point
worse.
My point being that I can't blame the NFL for wanting to have some way of holding them accountable, which is really what is holding up these negotiations.
So the NFL is telling them we're not going to settle with you because you guys suck at your jobs.
So we're going to bring in worse people. That is then. I mean, Tony Kornheiser says the answer to all your questions is money. They're fighting over money, right? Like the refs want more money, and the NFL is like, well, we actually want all the money.
It's bad for business. I think.
Something I've learned since I've become an adult is like sometimes people who are in charge of stuff have no idea what they're doing. So if you're the NFL, you don't get rid of the referees and replace them with worse ones. Particularly in the, when you can gamble anywhere at any time. That's a terrible idea.
Well,
Like if NFL just pay the money. It's fine.
Well, the one savings grace I think is that I'm assuming none of these replacement refs will be Saints season ticket holders like that one guy was, and he was about to ref a Saints-Panthers game.
Oh my goodness.
That was quite a fiasco. So hopefully we don't get any situations like that.
Just pick a super fan from the stands.
Yeah,
the
this is
head
some
ref.
guy, just some guy who liked the Saints. And it's like, yeah, they had to kick him off the game for obvious reasons because he might be a little biased. So, all right. Well, hopefully things get settled.
God.
Can't afford to have worse refs because Cory has a point. They have been pretty bad lately, but that's all we have for today's show. Unless you guys have any further thoughts about anything fun.
Some Orioles
No, I
pitcher
know
called Geraldo just walked Corey Seager on 4 pitches that weren't even close to the strike zone.
So no ABS challenges is what you're saying.
I doubt it.
Okay.
I know that the NFL approved some other rule changes at their meeting this past weekend, but we can probably get to that a little bit later on.
Oh, and the tush push lives. That
Yeah,
was
push,
not.
push,
That was
push. I don't
not.
even think if they brought that one up.
That was
this
not
year.
even considered this year.
Yeah.
Probably because the Eagles were not good at it anymore because the refs started nailing them on it.
Well, the refs started nailing it, and other teams started to figure out some different ways to try and slow it down. And
Jason
and
Kelce
and,
retired.
and
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Kelsey retired, and Jalen Hurts just wasn't quite as effective at running it this year.
Well, there you go.
Get his tush in gear.
All right. So before we get out of here, do we have any shout-outs?
I forgot to prepare any, so I'll let you guys go first.
I'm
while I think about it.
thinking, shout out to all the workers at Oriole Park this weekend. Shout out to my dad. Had a great time at the ball game on Sunday. Got to see the Orioles win, which is not frequent.
I also saw the Orioles win. So my shout-out is to a hockey player named Radko Gudas. And this is a reluctant shout-out because I hate this man with every fiber of my being. But
Damn.
Gudas had an incident a few weeks back where he delivered an illegal knee-to-knee hit with Austin Matthews. You two probably haven't heard of Austin Matthews, but he's one of the best hockey players in the world. Grade 3 MCL injury for him, out for the season, had to have surgery. Well, hockey players police themselves more than any sport in the world, and so the expectation was next time the Ducks, who Gudas plays for, squares up against the Maple Leafs was somebody's going to come beat the hell out of Gudas. Well, Gudas served a 5-game suspension due to that hit that he laid out, and then suffered an injury in his second game back. He's going to miss a lot of time due to that injury. He suited up for that game against the Leafs just so he could get his ass whooped because he knew he deserved it. So, shout out to you, dude. Respect. Because before the puck even dropped, they were beating on him, and he didn't even throw a punch. He just got walloped and then went back to the locker room.
Damn. I need to go back.
Sometimes
I need to
you
watch
just gotta
that.
eat it, I guess.
Hockey's a
I need
crazy,
to go find
crazy man's sport, man. It's insane.
All
right, Cory.
All right, so my shout out is to Scott Sicko, who Eric knows from calling DeMatha football games with this past fall and the fall before. So this past Friday was the last day of school before spring break, and earlier in the month, Scott asked me if I would be interested in accompanying him on a field trip as a chaperone. And I said yes, and we went to the Under Armour headquarters in Baltimore on Friday. and it was really cool. I actually got to go in and meet some of the people who are doing a lot of the testing and developing of new technology and new materials with different clothing, and some of the things that they're planning. I got to see some of the prototypes that they're working on in preparation for the LA Olympics in a couple of years, as far as gear that they're going to be outfitting athletes in, and some of the different efforts that they're making in sustainability, and just learning more about why sustainability pushes actually do make a difference, even just at the manufacturing level. It was really neat. I already really like a lot of Under Armour products, but I've been kind of a little bit cooler on some of their newer, releases that they put out over the past few years. But a lot of what I saw makes me kind of excited for the future of Under Armour. And also just the things that they're doing in Baltimore. They fully outfit 21 Baltimore public schools for free, all of their athletics programs, which I think is really cool. On their campus, they have the football stadium and track, and they host meets and football games for primarily for Baltimore County schools to be able to have their games there for free a few times a year, which is neat. But also DeMatha had its Brennan Looney lacrosse game up there a few weeks ago. But yeah, all that to say, just it was a really cool experience, and I'm really grateful to Scott for thinking of me as the other chaperone to go on that trip.
All right, very nice. All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in. You can reach us at thesportsballers@gmail.com if you want to provide us any feedback.
Mailbag, feedback, all in one.
We'll take a feedback too. Nothing wrong with that. But,
I need dinner.
Yeah, I ate dinner before.
You guys in the Peloton of the Tour de France like a feedback.
Yeah, sure. Why not? But anyway, if you want to contact us and do all that good stuff, sure, go right ahead. You can get this podcast on Apple, on Spotify. You can watch live on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. You can follow us individually as well. Cory is at Cory Puffett. Evan is at Evan_Ash13. And I am at Quagmire67. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next week, we will probably talk a little bit about who won the NCAA tournaments. Maybe a little bit more discussion on baseball. Hopefully, we'll have real refs back, but probably not. And maybe, just maybe, a little NBA basketball.
Oh.
Maybe. Probably not. Take it easy.